God, give me the words. Hi guys. Today I want to talk about food intolerances, sensitivities, allergies, things like that. Because it goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. I mean, some people can have a mild sensitivity, and others can have a horrific sensitivity to a food. For example, when I was diagnosed with celiac disease and I got rid of all the gluten in my diet, I still wasn't well. I was better. I was much better than I had been in years. But I still wasn't well enough. And I didn't find out until later that I have a food sensitivity to corn. Do you know what? Anyone who has celiac disease knows that you go to the corn, and you go to the rice when you can't have the wheat. And so there went all the corn products that I was eating. And the reason I found out, I didn't really know when I was eating like corn chips or corn tortillas or things like that. I would just kind of my tummy wouldn't feel good. But then when I went raw and I had raw corn chowder, I got violently ill. My body just revolted in every way, shape, and form. I broke out in hives. The corn chowder wouldn't stay in me, and I still broke out in hives. So, when you have a reaction to a food, don't go, oh, I just, had an upset stomach. People do that all the time. And it's like, no, it's something you ate, and you have to pay attention. If you're not sure, like if you ate 3 or 4 things and you're just not sure what it was that affected you, don't eat those things together. They always talk about food diaries. Keep food diaries, especially when you're having reactions. Because most people don't realize those reactions are from what you're putting inside of you. They're not just, just happening because. So, and let's talk about dairy. Dairy is very hard to digest. And I don't think most people realize that. I learned that the hard way. When I went gluten-free, I then found out that I couldn't do dairy. Because of course, I was a vegetarian at the time, so, I could do gluten-free and still do my vegetarian stuff. But once I got rid of all that wheat, gluten, my body was like, whoa, what are you doing? We can't have this, Suddenly I was having other reactions. And I was having that horrible phlegm. And for those of you who think that it's lactose, it's not. It's fat. It's when you get that horrible hacking after you drink a glass of milk or eat a product that has dairy in it, and you have to clear your throat, or you can't clear your throat, or you're coughing up phlegm, that is from the fat. That is not from the sugar. People who are lactose intolerant, the sugars give them diarrhea. People who have an allergic reaction to cow's milk have that phlegm reaction, or they have an upset stomach, or they can have constipation. And what happens inside of the body is that milk, those milk products just line your colon. And what happens is no nutrition can get in. You have a thin layer around your colon that helps you absorb nutrition into your body, especially in your small intestine. That's where you get most of it. But when you eat an abundance of dairy products, it's like slime right down your intestinal tract. And nothing can penetrate it. And I see it time and time again in people, and once they get rid of the dairy, all of a sudden they start feeling better. All of a sudden they have more energy. All of a sudden, other symptoms are going away. Imagine that. So, and the reason for that is I don't think most people are not taught about food. They're not taught what food does. Us as human beings, if you've ever seen the inside of a body, our colon is 40 feet long. And that's because we are made to ferment foods. And the only foods, meat products do not ferment. They break down, but they do not ferment. And the fermentation is what keeps us healthy. That's what allows nutrition to absorb into our body. So when you eat a lot of meats and a lot of dairies and a lot of processed foods, you're getting squat. And I know you're going to say it. So why isn't my brother who eats horrible having problems? You don't know that he's not. I learned a long time ago, people don't talk about what's going on. And some people don't know that what's going on with them isn't normal. Sometimes it's all they know, so they think that's normal. But back to the food allergies and sensitivities. The one extreme is people with peanut allergies. And then, the lower extreme is, people who just have an upset stomach after they eat a certain product. And I just have to say this. If it upsets your body, don't eat it. I see people all the time, especially, when I first found out I had celiac disease, I became an advocate. I joined my local support group. I got on the board. I tried to make a change. I tried to help. And in that process, I learned a multitude of, things about, not just about celiac disease, but about food itself and food intolerances. And, I met so many people who just would ignore that there was still something going on. Or they would accept what their doctor was saying instead of trusting their own body. Hello, God gave you this thing for a reason. Pay attention to it. It's trying to tell you something. It's trying to warn you. And for those of you who think, and I get this a lot, I get this so many times when I was with the support group, I would get people who would have gluten intolerance, not celiac disease. They would just not be able to tolerate gluten or wheat or barley or oats or whatever. And they would be like, well, I'm okay if I have a little. No, you're not. You're still hurting yourself. You're not doing yourself any good. And the problem is, they can't perceive how good they could feel. They just can't imagine how good they could feel. So my point is, why not find out? Don't be ignorant. Look beyond what you're doing and pay attention. Yes, it's hard. It's hard to be told you can't have gluten and everything in the world has gluten in it. And then you can't have corn, and God help us, everything has corn syrup in it. And then you can't have dairy. It's like, and I don't eat meat. So it's like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And in the beginning, I fell back. I stopped being a vegetarian. I started eating meat products. And that's when I found out they don't digest very well either. Pork, forget it. Forget it. It's so similar to human meat that it doesn't digest well in us. But we eat it by the bucket loads. And same with chicken. I mean, just look at the product you're eating. Is it breaking down? Does it turn into something else? Can you shred it? Yeah, sometimes you can shred pork, But again, what are you going to get from that? It took me a long time and especially after my last flare last year, to realize, to finally say, what do I need? Okay, not what can't I eat. What can I eat? What will help me? What will heal me? What will make me whole? And if it means I can't have corn, and I can't have nuts, and I can't have this, and I can have that, okay, fine. But pay attention. Pay attention that you can't have those, and stop having those. I tell people all the time, you cannot imagine how amazing it feels to be healthy. I was the sickest person for all my life and never really knew it. And then I've just had this 7 or 8 year spiral since I was diagnosed with celiac disease to really learn about my body and what it needed and how to feed it better. Of course, I'm sorry, I think YouTube is starting to cut me off. So I'm going to stop here. I hope I answered the questions of all the emails that I got about food allergies. And have a fabulous weekend. Ciao.